Greetings, friends of the Alpha Team of Scotland. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas this year. Even though we may have gone through a lot of rough times, we have made it this far. I want everybody to be happy and enjoy a helpful new year. As new changes are starting to change, we're going to start changing a lot more. And in order to improve the Alpha Team of Scotland, we need to get together and to start researching everything we've done. I know this is going to be a rough time for a lot of people, especially the kids in England, thanks to, the Conservative Party and Theresa May. But we cannot let negative things drag us down. We've been through a lot together. We've had our bumps, we've had our bruises. We've got knocked down numbers of times, but we've made it this far. I don't want anybody to think that anything I posted or said in the live broadcast was to be in a negative, derogative fashion. It was never intended to be. I'm sorry if there was anybody who may have got offended because I spoke the truth. However, the truth has to be spoken in research and upon much of data research. Just recently, the most recent attack caused by Theresa May, Ruth Davidson, David Mundell in regard to the Union of 1707. However, we cannot let them try to force the Union down our throats. This is one of the worst, toughest things I've had to face, was to explain the history of Scotland and against the English government. However, I do not impose or do I endorse any form of vicious attacks against the English people in general. It's not the English people that's at fault, and most people are taking this out of context as a form of misunderstanding. I do not wish to impose any type of harassment or intimidation beyond recognition. As you know, the Culloden battlefield that's supposed to be a historic memorial gravesite is now being viciously attacked by building luxury houses on that property. I encourage all of you this Christmas to keep them in thoughts. Remember, our ancestors did not die in vain. And in fact, the purpose of the Highland clearance was a direct assault by Queen Anne of England at that time. History in its research has verified that this type of action was intentionally taken to overrule and to try to dominate on everything. I do not impose to see any of this happening to anybody. I support, and generally all the way support, the Culloden battle to keep houses on the historic land gravesite of our ancestors. As many of you know, this past year has been one of the roughest times for me. As it goes, I have had my shares of bumps and bruises. I was denied entry into Scotland because of the Scottish police had made accusations by putting words into my mouth I never actually said. In other words, it is better not to worry about what others may think or what they will try to intimidate you. I know it's been one of the roughest times, and I wish this to be the best Christmas for all of us. However, it's been one of the roughest times. As you know, early this year, we've had a snap election, which was actually illegal. And in fact, our Excellency, Nicola Sturgeon, is doing what she can to put a stop to taking over and shutting down the Scottish Parliament. This is not what we really wanted for Christmas. Neither did I. And that to try to intimidate us is only to push us more into a bigger, larger defiance. Many people are now concerned about a possible civil war if they take over the Scottish Parliament. I do not wish for any bloodshed, but if there ever was to rise up into a civil war, it would be more likely it'll happen in England and London. It is not to say that it would be true. It would not be the best way to go. Okay? But if you can imagine the hell that we had to face, it is not to say We wanted this. We Scots are more noble. We're more sovereign. And our ancestors had taught us this. From this time on, they passed on from generation to generation onto us about how to be more sovereign. There are better ways to be in a peaceful way without bloodshed. And I've been a big, strong advocate spokesperson against bloodshed. I know it's one of the toughest times that everybody needs to understand. I'm for this, meaning, for peace. But how can you do this if you've got a government system that's trying to take over one separate part of the nation, okay, and they're going to turn around and they're going to try to manipulate us? Most of the propaganda, as I've said in the past, has become a bigger problem. We want to make sure that you all understand the purpose of this. In this Christmas message, I want to present to you one of the most greatest gifts that we have. And the greatest gift is that we have the true history of Scotland, of our true ancestors. Our roots originated in Scotland, not England. Though I am not against the English people. I have a friend of mine in the game of Age of Spotter. Me and her have had the exact same agreement. She lives in the UK, and she totally agreed with me, said that the English government is more corrupted than ever. It is more harder for her to find a job now because of the corruption and the lies. The unemployment is more on the increase than it is in Scotland. According to the reports, in a positive way of thinking, the employment has rose up dramatically, more for Scotland, less for England, but yet it's not fair to the English people. I choose not to be negative this time because the fact is that there's been too much of heartache. I choose not to, say, well, we're dealing with what we call a form of racism. Racism is one of the worst dominated sins on the face of this planet. I don't know why. Many people have taken racism totally out of context and they've twisted it the other way. I encourage you to ignore anything that you consider not true. Anything that's propaganda is not true. And we know this. But keep in mind that Britain First must, under any conditions, must be put to a stop. The only way to do this in a calm, positive way is to not respond or read anything that they post. They call themselves a Christian nation, which is a bunch of malarkey, in my opinion. I'll tell you why I believe that's to be the facts. And over 85% of what they have spread on propaganda has gone worldwide, including in the United States. About 85,000 possible Americans have believed what Britain First had said in regarding to racism and against the Muslim and so on. Let's keep in mind that this year ending. We must start the new year with a positive note. I am not here to say that we were wrong for expressing our thoughts. We weren't wrong for, posting our own opinions. Everybody was entitled to it in this group. Some of the people who got banned and removed was because of the, of all the garbage. And I am not here to argue that point. And I am tired of the lies. And I am tired of the fact that how we the Scots have been lied to by these pretend wannabe Scots. I really get sick of this. The garbage that you hear so much even on Twitter. They post more on Twitter than on Facebook. Yes, they do Facebook too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's just common sense. But why are we being deceived? Why are we being lied to? One of the things is that I've always told my sister Nicola, I really have to press this with her only because I care for her. I love her to death. Don't get me wrong. I love my sister. She's my life. She's the gem of the crop, okay? But one of the things that she inspired me to do was to continue my research, make sure that the truth was sitting there, not to be disrespectful. Many of us had to face the upright competition of being punched in the face by propaganda from BBC, STV News, ITV News, and so on. My sister, like Elaine, had told me that I was always very good about researching and that I had ways of finding out and seeking information and detecting what is true and what is false. However, BBC had decided they were going to raise up this program and teach about how to detect fake news. Well, how can BBC do this if they're the ones that's producing the fake news? Everybody, like you and me, know that BBC is not telling the truth. We have had numerous attacks against us based on what Jackie Bird had said on BBC News. We've had BBC Scotland on Twitter and all sources of BBC News propaganda on many of the sites in Twitter. I personally don't think, honestly, that we're going to get very far with BBC. But we can know the truth that they're lying. We don't have to give in to them. We don't have to bow down to them. We don't have to bow down and kiss their feet or kiss their ass, whatever the hell it is it takes. You know, and I know, we're both smart enough, we're both all wise enough to know the difference between right and wrong and who's lying. I personally will take this as a personal insult. The reason I take this as a personal insult is because of my ancestors of Clan Gunn and McFarland. As a matter of fact, I take it was an insult and a slap in the face to the most clan that took the most slap in the face was McFarland. And in fact, we had connections with the Stewart's family, Stewart's clan, and involvement in portion of a part of royalty, okay? The problem is that you, after the scene and the incident, as I said, with Queen Mary of Scots, excuse me, we winded up facing a much tougher competition back in those days. Then after the scene of Queen Mary of Scots, we had to deal with Queen Anne of England. This was after Queen Elizabeth I. However, Queen Anne, along with some of the traders in general, had proposed out this union, and Queen Anne approved it, as history does indicate this. But does that mean that Scotland, this year for Christmas, needs to be putting up with this any further? No. And in fact, 95% of what Queen Anne did was wrong. I'm not judging the English people. Let me repeat that again. I'm not judging the English people. The English people, as I said, became victims of propaganda between the Conservative Party. Now, the Tories and Westminster in the early days of Queen Anne was involved in putting the union together. However, further details had just proved that the people in the Highland area were victims of not trusting the English government when it came to the union. They had no trust. As a result of this type of rebellion, which our ancestors had the right to do, was not to trust them. We winded up losing more of a bigger battle because of the fact the last of the Jacobites was the name of the one giant clan of all clans combined were called the last of the Jacobites. This cannot be allowed to be misunderstood. The Frasers, the Murrays, the Gunns, McFarland, the Sutherland clan, all clans of types got together. They were part of the last of the Jacobites. And in fact, The English government had allied with the French. However, there was more details to this, which I'm not going to have time to get into. But this Christmas is going to be one of the best years, and we need to think positive about this. Think of the good things in all kinds. I know it was rough for a lot of you to understand what I had said and what I had posted. The idea of this group, and many people have misunderstood this. The purpose of this group is to rise up for independence in a sovereign, peaceful way. To show Westminster and the Tories and all Conservative Party members, wherever you are, you have the right to speak up. They have ruined our Christmas in one way. Is by making threats to shut down our Scottish Parliament. I do not like this idea of have to ever think of calling for a UDI. But what matters to me is that the greatest gift I have is all of you who are on my friend list, including my family and Elaine and more. You people have been the biggest inspiration of my life. As a matter of fact, you've also encouraged me to continue researching. You didn't have to post, but if you've seen it, then it's good enough for me. I want to thank you all for being part of this group that I created. The reason I created this group was to expose the truth, speak the truth, and push by the truth. It's all I'm saying. I mean, I know it's hard. But most of us has to understand where we're going with this. I do not like this any more than you do, to be honest with you. Really. But the problem is that too many people are taking, a little bit of what we've said out of context. And we want to try to encourage you to push more peacefully for independence, stand your grounds, and speak up. If you show any signs that you're afraid of them, then that will tell them that you're an easy target they could take advantage of. Do not let them take advantage of you. You have the right to stand your grounds. You have the right to speak your anger. But do it in a peaceful way that doesn't impose threats to people. I mean, I know I get a little carried away myself. I own up to this mistake. I mean, it takes a bigger person to admit their faults. But there are not many who own up to their mistakes. We Scots have been noble enough and strong enough. I mean, like John Mellon, he's one of the toughest brothers I've ever had in gun. I mean, he's tough. He means business. But deep inside, he's a big stuffed teddy bear until somebody pisses him off. That's just the way we work. We don't want to try to push people beyond recognition. I've seen many Scots who are those wannabe indie supporters. And I think that's one of our downfalls is why there's like separation, because of the pretend wannabes are actually more spies for the conservative parties. I started to wonder how true that was. But many people are now misunderstanding, why should we have to do this? I am tired of, why should we have to be lied to? It doesn't make any sense. I am tired of the fact that too many people have hurt my feelings and they've angered me. And I've got to the breaking point. I just said, to hell with this. Why should we have to continue? So look, for this Christmas, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. But keep in mind of what I said. This is the most important positive thing we can do right now. I mean, Christmas is supposed to be a season of joy, happiness, giving and receiving. But you know what the biggest problem is? The conservative government has this thing about that they would rather, instead of the way I was taught, let me put it this way. My mother always taught me, it's better to give than to receive. Well, why can't the Tory Conservative Party understand this? Instead of giving, they demand more back. Or better yet, they don't give it all and they hog it all. Shows how greedy, selfish, rude, obnoxious they are. Okay? But be thankful that just be thankful that we have made it this far. We've made it up to Christmas. So I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and hope all your wishes do come true. Thank you.